What if the one thing people said would destroy your career turned out to be the exact thing that made you legendary? Not your looks, not your connections, not your luck, your voice. The one thing a singer cannot fake. The one thing nobody can give you. The one thing that is completely unavoidably yours. Now, what if that voice, the same voice people laughed at, went on to be heard by billions at World Cups, at stadiums, on every radio, in every country, in every language? That's not a comeback story. That's something far more interesting. That's the story of Shakira. And that's why it definitely doesn't suck to be her. Before the fame, before the Grammys, before the sold-out tours and the World Cup performances, there was just a girl in Barranquilla, Colombia. A girl who loved music more than anything, who filled notebooks with lyrics, who performed in front of mirrors, who had one dream and zero doubts about it. But the world had doubts. When Shakira tried to join her school choir, she was turned away. The reason? Her voice was too unusual, too different, too her. Most kids would have taken that as a sign. Go find another dream, pick something safer, fit in. Shakira did the opposite. She kept the voice exactly as it was, and she kept going. What looked like a flaw was actually a fingerprint, and one day, the whole world would recognize it. Here's the part of success nobody talks about: the years before success. Shakira released her first album as a teenager, then her second. Neither one made much noise. The sales were quiet. The world wasn't paying attention. Imagine that. You've already survived rejection. You've already bet everything on yourself. And the world still isn't listening. Most people quit here. The silence after trying is the hardest silence of all. But Shakira didn't quit. She studied harder. She wrote better songs. She kept sharpening her craft. And she made a decision that would change everything. She stopped chasing what everyone expected of her and started leaning into exactly what made her different. The unusual voice, the belly dancing moves, the storytelling, the cultural blend that didn't fit neatly into any box. That wasn't a compromise. That was a strategy. And it worked. When it finally clicked, it really clicked. Suddenly, Shakira wasn't just popular in Colombia. She wasn't just popular in Latin America. She was everywhere. Songs crossing language barriers, fans singing along in countries she'd never visited. A name that needed no introduction. Most artists spend their entire careers trying to break one market. Shakira broke several at the same time. And that's when the world realized something important. The unusual voice wasn't a problem to be fixed. It was the reason you could pick her out of 1,000 singers in 3 seconds. That's not a flaw. That's a brand. That's a superpower. And then came the moment that turned a pop star into something bigger. Football, not just any football. The FIFA World Cup, the most watched sporting event on the planet. In 2010, FIFA chose Shakira to perform the official song of the World Cup in South Africa. The song was Waka Waka, this time for Africa. Not everyone was convinced at first. A Colombian singer for a tournament on the African continent? But then the tournament started, and the song took over. It was in every stadium, in every living room, on every screen. People who had never bought a Shakira album knew every word of the chorus. People who didn't follow football knew the song. People who didn't speak Spanish were singing along anyway. Waka Waka became one of the most recognized World Cup songs in history. Think about what that means. The girl who had once been told her voice wasn't good enough had just become the voice of the world's biggest sporting event. But she wasn't done. She returned for the 2014 World Cup with La La La, and then again for 2026, teaming up with Burna Boy for Die Die, the official song of the FIFA World Cup held across North America. 3 World Cups, 3 eras, 1 name. FIFA didn't just invite Shakira to perform at their tournament. They made her part of the tournament itself. That's not just success, that's legacy. Here's something they don't teach you about being famous. The world watches everything, not just the wins, the losses too. When Shakira's personal life became global news, billions of people had an opinion. Cameras everywhere, headlines everywhere, strangers forming sides. Most people, when their private pain becomes public property, go quiet. They disappear. They wait for it to blow over. Shakira did something different. She made music out of it. The result was one of the most streamed songs of the year. Global headlines, but this time on her terms. A story that could have defined her, and she redefined it instead. There's a lesson in that. When you can't control what happens to you, you can still control what you make of it. Shakira made hit records. Here's the side of Shakira most people never talk about. For years, quietly, she has supported educational projects for children, building schools, funding access to learning, changing real lives. No stadium, no crowd, no chart position, just kids who got an education they wouldn't have had otherwise. In a world obsessed with fame and streaming numbers and viral moments, that kind of work rarely trends. But 100 years from now, no one will remember which song spent the most weeks at #1. They will remember who showed up when it mattered. So why doesn't it suck to be Shakira? Because she was rejected and kept going anyway. Because she failed publicly and bet on herself again. Because she refused to change the one thing that made her different. Because that difference became her identity, her brand, and her legacy. Because she turned personal pain into art that moved millions. Because she became part of World Cup history not once, not twice, but across 3 tournaments. Because behind the fame, she quietly built something that will outlast all of it. But here's the real lesson. This isn't just a story about Shakira. It's a story about what happens when you stop trying to fix the thing that makes you different. The voice people laughed at filled stadiums. The career that started with rejection ended up at the World Cup. The woman they doubted became one of the most recognizable artists on earth. The thing that makes you different might be inconvenient right now. It might be misunderstood. It might even get you rejected from the choir. But that thing, exactly that thing, might also be the reason the world remembers your name. Shakira kept her voice. What will you keep?